When I first started recording over the phone, I think the Lifers group out of New Jersey had done it first. You know, I'm all about that hip hop history.
Right.
The Lifers group they got recording equipment. There was a program, I think in Rahway in New Jersey, and they put out an album, and I was conscious of that. And then Mac Dre did Back in the Hood over the phone in the county jail, and I was conscious of that. And Brother Lynch Young had me rap on an answering machine, and then he took that and put it on 24 Deep. And when he dropped his first EP, I'm on the title track, and I'm on the chorus, and over the phone.
Right.
So I end up in a tank with Mac Dre. I walk in, you know, court tanks are a trip.
Wait, okay, but that wasn't before you were actually in prison, because you mentioned you were in prison with the Menendez brothers, which is pretty insane. The county jail. Okay, so before that.
Yeah, 1992 or 3, in the Sacramento County Jail. And you know, when you got a federal case up that way, they send you to Sacramento County Jail to go to court. So Mac Dre was going to court from Sacramento County for his alleged participation in bank robberies or whatever allegedly occurred in his life experience. So Mac Dre's in the tank, and you got they don't segregate tanks. So you just sink or swim. You going up in there, and whoever in there, good luck.
Crazy environment, like you're walking in there and it's just insane.
And you just got to always be ready to go. And that's one of my problems. You know, I was always had to be ready to go.
You were more ready to go than anybody else.
I
was
think
competition.
I might have had a little bit more motivation than everybody else that wasn't famous for sure. But I come from a place where they get busy where I come from.
Right.
So I ain't gonna say that I was, you know, I ain't never met the hardest gangster yet.
But
I met a lot of them.
You went in there with the attitude of, I know motherfuckers are gonna try to press me, so I'm gonna be extra aggressive in case anybody has an issue.
I didn't even think about it that far. I just thought, it's crib. That's what I thought. This
you
crib.
Come back to
I'm
that.
coming in this tank.
I mean,
period.
But that's interesting that you sort of keep summarizing your thoughts as a young man as is crib, because it's like, really, like, if you have that as your code, is like, I'm gonna stand on my shit, I'm not gonna let anybody disrespect me, then that's all you need, right?
Yeah, I didn't even think about no disrespect, because it's crib.
Right.
That's how it stopped right there for me. That's where it was. I'm coming in this tank because it's crib. I don't give a fuck who in here. That's how I really felt. I felt that way for years and years and years. It's an inappropriate psychological disposition, but that was my perspective for sure. So I walk in this tank, and Mac Dre, there's a big ass afro in the corner. He lifts his head up. It's Mac Dre. We had a connection as the first two Northern California Bay Area artists who were being reported about by hip hop media.
Yeah,
you know, we had penetrated the culture as a result of our music and as a result of our cases. So Mac Dre and I were being written about. This is before they were, if you wasn't Too Short or Spice One, there was nobody talking about you unless you was MC Hammer.
Right.
Up that way. That's the truth. This
Very
is
different
before
time, yeah.
E40 popped. I was bumping the click already. E40 been putting in work, but he hadn't been, they weren't reporting about that yet. They was reporting about me and Mac Dre and then everybody above us. So every time they wrote about me, they wrote about Dre. And every time they wrote about Dre, they wrote about me, a writer named Billy Jam. He always connected me and Mac Dre. So my first big story was attached to Dre, and Dre's first big story was attached to me. So when we met each other, it was coming from a place of like, you know, every time I see me and really my greatest achievement as an artist, I see you too. We've shared that. And so Mac Dre gave me the game about recording over the phone. He told me how he made his record and told me, you know, this is how you could do it, because that answering machine, I told him we did it on an answering machine. He was like, nah. He gave me a whole other way to do it.
Really?
Yeah, back then.
Anything in particular?
Well, there wasn't no cell phones back then. So, you know, Dre told me to take the phone apart, right? And solder the mic cables to it, to the transmitter, to the receiver, and plug that in the mix board as the microphone. So now I call the phone and it goes straight in the board. And then call another phone and they do the same, solder it, and play the beat through that.
Wow.
So I got to listen to the beat on this one and spit the rhyme in that one. Dre gave me the game about taking stuff apart, but John Botch at Inharmonic Studios in Sacramento kind of tweaked out on it and took it to another level and came to those conclusions. But that the impetus for that for me was Mac Dre. He taught me that. And then we put that on steroids and took it to another level. And that's how I made that Exorcist album. And so,
the idea of Mac Dre being familiar with how to use a soldering kit is kind of just fascinating to me. That there was a technical side to this as well.
There's a lot of reasons why you would need to know how to use one of them things in the streets.
That's true, I guess.
It's factual.
That's fucking crazy.
You got to modify. You might not have to know how to modify something.
Yeah, man.
Where we come from, straight up.
Hey, what was it like when Pac died while you were locked up?
Interestingly enough, when Pac died, I was in a cell with Sebo. We were cellies at Tracy. And, Bo had just done All Eyes on Me with Tupac. He had Trade War Stories. You Ain't Hard to Find. He had a couple songs on there with Tupac.
Yeah.
And so it was, he was really focused. Pac was about to do the Machiavelli Records thing. And Bo was a big part of Pac's plans. It's unfortunate that nobody really talk about that, like what Pac's plans were.
Right.
We know what Biggie did, with who he put his crew on before he passed, and how Jay-Z came to be the guy putting people on, along with others. Pac was doing the same thing.
We never got to see that part of Pac's career.
Right. What happens, you got this dude selling 10 million records at a time, 5 million records, and he got E40 a phone call away, Too Short a phone call away, Forte a phone call away. You got Sebo. This is somebody who literally could have signed any and everybody from the West Coast, have one of the most dominating companies in hip-hop history. And that's what Pac was doing. And his relationship with Kidada and Quincy Jones, to think that education wasn't available to Tupac, as smart as he was, would be unreasonable to think he wasn't conscious of that.
Right.
And so Bo was real focused on signing with Machiavelli Records and elevating what he was doing. So we had a female CEO. This is how powerful Pac's death was and who he was as a person. A female CEO came, got our door open, and stood there and cried and told us that Tupac had passed. So we found out he got shot. A CEO told us he got shot, and a CEO came, stood at the door, and cried and told us that he had died. And that was how we found out. And so, that hit Bo harder than that hit me.
Like this rare moment where you and the guards are on the same level, feeling the same pain. Well, I mean, maybe not the same pain, but feeling the same sadness about losing somebody so important.
Psychologically, that ain't,
Yeah.
It's a female.
The
female guards it's me and Sebo in a cell together. They was on our door all the time. They was getting yelled at by their supervisors for being on our door.
Right.
Like, it's me and Sebo in a cell in a prison in Northern California.
How the fuck do you guys get in the same cell?
Crib. That's what it was. Crib.
That's fire.
Garden block. We housed with your affiliation. I was housed with from my neighborhood. I don't think I had a cellie that wasn't from my neighborhood.
Right.
Until I got with Whiskey, at Folsom. But so she wasn't no guard standing there. That was a woman experiencing pain at losing the dude that wrote Dear Mama and Keep Your Head Up. And I guess, that she was reacting to her trauma from losing somebody that was communicating something to her that she was attached to, and knowing that we had a connection to that both specifically had a connection to that. So I stood there and consoled my homeboy in that moment where, he got to think about his whole life. That changed his whole life. Every decision he had to make after that was altered by the death of Pac, and Pac publicly had proclaimed that Sebo was one of his favorite rappers, and being from Garden Block and from Sacramento, we was real proud of that. We were very proud to have that and hopeful.
For real.
So that's why I gave him those songs, Deadly Game. I gave Sebo Macafram and Lemon. He just didn't use it. I gave him my lyric book.
Really?
Like you do, it's gonna be you. Somebody got to do it for the set.
Was there anything else that was that big of news in your entire sentence? Like the Tupac thing, was that like the most significant thing that happened in terms of like the prison reacting to anything over that whole period of time? Like 9/11, was 9/11 on that scale?
9/11.
It's kind of harder to comprehend.
9/11 was more impactful for me as an individual.
Right.
Because 9/11 taught me something that I hadn't known up until then. I suspected, I was conscious that my life circumstances were different. Sanyika by then had already been programming me for about 3 years. By the time 9/11 happened, I remember I was asleep. I'm in the cell and it was too quiet. It was so quiet it woke me up. And so I opened my eyes and I just started listening. And then I heard this roar, a cheer, like your favorite team won the Super Bowl. It went crazy, the building went crazy. And I turned the TV on and the first tower had fell. And actually the building was burning and I saw the other plane hit the other building, and that was how I understood what I was watching. Because everybody was like, we don't know, what was going on, or was it an accident? But the first building had got hit, but I didn't understand what was happening until I saw that plane smack that other building.
Yeah.
People start jumping off the building. Like I was watching that, people jump off the building. In my cell watching that, and the tier was cheering. They cheered for that.
Why were they cheering? Just the destruction of society?
Nobody knew what that was. Like, is America, is it World War III?
Yeah.
Is it death to America?
I mean, these are a lot of guys who feel like they've been fucked over by the prison system and the government. So it's yeah.
So it was, it was fuck America. It was fuck the government. It was fuck California. That's how they felt. Pete Wilson and all the rest of them up to that point. Gray Davis, they fuck them. And I think that's where that was coming from for them. But for me, as an artist, I think maybe seeing those people jump off that building, man, that was traumatic for me because I understood it. You're going to jump or you're going to burn.
Yeah.
Them is the choices. You're going to jump or you're going to burn.
Watching somebody make that choice is just...
Right. There wasn't no walking through the fire. Wasn't no getting down the stairs, the smoking, all of that. To understand the horror, man, that fucked me up watching that happen. And I judged my environment for cheering for it.
Really?
I did. It made me feel different than my community right then. In that moment, I felt like I can't co-sign that.
A lot of people don't talk about the way that there were, like, so many people did not know how to feel in that moment. So many people are used to sort of shitting on America, and then that happens. And I mean, there were a lot of sort of weird responses within hip hop when I look back on it, in terms of, weird conspiracy theories or weird people like saying like, oh, we the Taliban. I remember Dipset were on that for a while, and like people got on them heavy because it was like, yo, that's distasteful, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it was very hard for people to make sense of something that devastating at that time.
You know what it is? I read in my psychology courses, the unequivocal truth is hurt people, and hurt people want people to be hurt. And so African Americans are hurt people in this country. And so, and they've been hurt by this country specifically. They perceive the country to be, and that's whether can be effectively communicated or not. That's a belief. That's an inherent belief that go all the way back to before 1865, pre-Abraham Lincoln, 13th Amendment, Emancipation Proclamation, all that. Before all that, people felt like America had done them harm. And a lot of the things that they were experiencing in their lives came as a result of America's decision and what America chose to impose on people, Jim Crow, all these things. So, and then the killing of the Panthers and the Philadelphia, all that. People don't know how to say, I feel fucked over by this country. I feel like I have been inappropriately treated by this country. I'm disadvantaged and I haven't had a fair shot at life, and I would like to have that shot. It's that simple. But what it comes out is this the Taliban.
Yep.
Fuck, that's how it comes out. But that's really what is being communicated is I do not feel connected to this place. I don't feel appreciated by this place, respected by this place. I feel attacked by this place, but this is my home. Yeah. There's an utter confusion involved in that. So I having been an extremely ignorant person, I understand. I'm empathetic toward other forms of ignorance when I experience them. I just get it. I get it. I can't agree with it, but I get it though.
I feel you. When you first got locked up, were you even thinking about getting out, or did it seem so far off that it wasn't even a thought? When did it start to materialize in your head? Like, okay, I have a future.
Woo. Pete Wilson, 1% of lifers were being paroled. 1%. 1%.
And you were facing life at first.
I faced life to the day I left. I was sentenced to 31 to life.
Oof.
And so I had to do 85% of the 31 to be eligible for parole. So I became eligible for parole in my 24th year of actual incarceration.
Wow.
That was 2016 on March 19th. 24th year of actual incarceration by the law. So I had a life sentence for sure. I still have a life sentence, by the way. You know what I mean?
You've been paroled, but it's still hanging over your head?
Yeah, I'm one couple of good things away, I got to be real cautious. I do something stupid, I got a life sentence. I don't get a parole violation. I get a life sentence and placed back in prison. I got to go back to board, and they have to do a rescission hearing to determine what occurred and why were you in this circumstance. And then if they decide it wasn't on me, and then I get to go home again. So
you move careful? You're moving smart, I'm assuming?
I'm moving very smart.
Yeah, because I mean...
Yeah, I wouldn't call it careful though, but it's certainly intelligent.
I mean, it's just too much at risk for you to just end up in some bullshit situation, right?
There's a significant portion of my psychology that believes it's more acceptable to return to prison than to die and not be able to provide for my family. So it's gonna be some respect received. That's how I feel about that. But I also feel that that's an ultimate choice. It's people who feel like just drop a bomb on Iran, why we even talking about it?
Right.
But that's an irresponsible decision. But it's also something we're capable of doing as a country.
Right.
And so I feel the same way toward a op, a rival, or anybody with a problem. I feel like it's just that easy to crack the football open and push a button, but that's not reasonable in an unreasonable situation. What's up? It's X-Rated. If you like this clip, make sure to watch the full-length video. Again, you can follow me on Instagram, official X-Rated1. That's official XRAIDED #1. Holla at your boy.